If you're thinking of moving to Sarasota, or if you're renting in Sarasota right now, you've probably asked yourself this question: am I better off renting, or should I just buy? So in this video, I'm going to walk you through real numbers, what rent actually costs, what buying actually costs, and how those two paths play out over time. So you can decide what makes sense for you, not based on online chatter, but real info. And make sure you stay until the end, because I'll show you the break-even point, and it's sooner than most people think. Let's start with renting, because this is where most people are right now. So here in 2026, a very realistic average for rent here in Sarasota is about $2,300 a month. And that means one bedrooms are often pushing near $2,000, two bedrooms are around that number, and single family rentals can often be higher, up into the 3,000s. And the part renters don't always think about is that $2,300 or $2,400, it doesn't stay $2,400 forever. Even modest rent increases add up quickly. And every year, you're resetting the clock with zero equity. As this chart shows, rent has climbed steadily year after year, while ownership costs tend to level out. That difference matters more the longer you stay. And in a minute, I'll tell you about my own experience with rentals. Now let's talk about buying, using numbers that reflect what first-time buyers here are doing. For many buyers trying to stay in or around Sarasota, the most realistic purchase price or range right now is roughly between $300,000 to $400,000. Yes, you can find townhomes, especially condos, under that limit, but for the majority, the threshold will start here. And that usually means certain Sarasota pocket family neighborhoods, or areas like Northport, Parrish, Palmetto, or Ellenton. So let's use a $375,000 purchase price. Pretty much a realistic example. So with the typical assumptions like normal down payment, market interest rates, taxes, insurance, and HOA, that puts the total monthly ownership cost right around $2,400 to $2,600. And that's including a healthy HOA monthly. And keep in mind, most of the areas for first-time buyers won't even have an HOA. So in other words, for a lot of people, buying isn't really more expensive than renting, especially not anymore. Now these are averages, so let me give you a real-world example of a home that I was just doing the numbers for yesterday. This one is a brand new single-family model home in Parrish in a lagoon community. So that's one with a big giant beachfront pool. And that one was priced at $333,400. A 4-bedroom, 2.5 bath, 2-car garage, 1,870 square foot. So this is not exactly a tiny starter home either. So with a purchase price of $333,400, the monthly carrying cost with 20% down and a 4.99% interest rate, which is what the builder is giving, the principal and interest is around $1,430 a month. The property taxes, which includes a very high CDD, is around $460. The insurance, $100 a month, and the HOA about $167, giving you a total of $2,157 a month. And the average rental rate is around $2,400 a month. So you're already ahead when you're buying. And it even gets better in communities without these huge CDD or high amenity HOAs. Now let's talk about timing, because this is really what matters. Buying doesn't always win in the short term, but once you get past 3 years, or especially 5 years, the math often starts to tilt towards home ownership. And this is where the math gets real. So let's compare 5 years of renting versus 5 years owning in Sarasota. So here's a couple of examples. For instance, renting $2,400 a month on average. Over 5 years, you're paying out $144,000. And the end result? Zero in equity. So say you're buying a home for $375,000. Using a typical Sarasota assumptions, 5 to 10% down, current market rates, taxes, insurance, HOA included, estimated ownership cost $2,600 a month. Over 5 years, that's $156,000 paid out. But there are other factors that shift the leverage to the home buyer favor. A portion of every payment reduces your loan balance. Plus, you can have potential home appreciation, and it's protecting you from rising rents. So on a $375,000 home purchase, even with conservative assumptions, $20,000 to $30,000 in principal can be paid down over 5 years. And historic appreciation of maybe 1 or 2% per year, that can give you $19,000 to $38,000. And with the total potential equity of both after 5 years, that can give you anywhere between $39,000 to $68,000. Not too bad. Now this is the moment most renters don't realize they're already approaching. Rent keeps climbing in a straight line, and ownership flattens as equity offsets costs, And this is where long-term renters usually say, wow, I didn't realize I was already here. So what does $375,000 actually buy you locally? Now let's make this real because the price means nothing without the context. So here's what 375 looks like in different parts of the area. In Northport, that often means a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage, single-family home, larger lots, often built in the early 2000s, or maybe even newer. The trade-off is longer drives to the beaches and the Sarasota core. In Parrish, you're often looking at newer construction and newer townhomes. HOA communities have lots of amenities there. Plus, you've got plenty of builder incentives. And the trade-offs, well, you're a lot farther north and you're pretty commute dependent for jobs in Sarasota, St. Pete, or Tampa. In Palmetto or Ellenton, you've got smaller single-family homes or townhomes, older but established neighborhoods, more new construction in Ellenton. And you're closer to Sarasota and Lakewood Ranch, but the trade-off is fewer new builds in Palmetto and probably less inventory. And in select inland Sarasota pockets, different neighborhoods, you'll find older homes, smaller footprints, minimal amenities or no amenities at all, and often no HOAs or CDDs, which is kind of nice. The trade-off is the space and the age versus the location. With renting, you can come and go as you please with no real cares because you're paying someone else to care for it. And that's built into your monthly rent. In the end, you're paying for it. So with buying, you've got the cost of maintenance and the repairs, and those are on you. When renting, if you get tired of the area or you need to move, you only have that lease holding you back, which can give you a lot more mobility and freedom. But renters in Sarasota do face a lot of other challenges, such as lease non-renewals or large renewal increases, and owners that sell the rental right out from under you, or they change the terms with very little notice. On the other side, the homeowner's side, they've got insurance changes and tax adjustments to worry about. However, you do have a lot more freedom as a homeowner than you do as a renter because, I mean, if you want to tear down walls to make rooms bigger or plant fruit trees just outside your front door, things like that, that's really not going to fly in a rental. Now, fair or not, homeowners get many tax benefits. If this is your primary residence, you can homestead it in the state of Florida and get $25,000 to $50,000 off your tax basis. And that simply just depends on your marital status, if you're married or not. And you can even write off a portion of your interest payments. So talk with your tax preparer for details and a list of other tax advantages. And lastly, here's a risk that renters rarely plan for. You don't control your housing costs. You really don't have that much control over it. Remember, unless you want to move every few years, there's always rent increases. So when I took my very first home that I'd ever owned, and we decided to keep it and make it into a rental, we were charging $1,100 per month. And this is in the early 2000s. This was just a basic 3-2 starter home that you can still buy in Sarasota for about $375,000. Now we've always stayed under market rent. And today that $1,100 monthly rent has doubled to $2,200. So inflation creeps into everything. Now you've heard of cost of living increases. Well, this is why they have them, as rent is part of that. And sudden displacement is a real thing. Stability has a price. So here's the real takeaway, and this is important. Buying in Sarasota doesn't always win short term. And renting isn't wrong. And in many cases, it's the right decision. If you're staying less than 2 years, renting can certainly make sense. 3 to 5 years or longer, buying often wins financially. The mistake that renters make is assuming that I'll wait until it's obvious, when interest rates do this or prices do that. So by the time it's obvious, rents are higher, prices have adjusted, and the entry point has moved again. Long-term renting around Sarasota has quietly become an expensive risk, not safe flexibility. So buying isn't about timing the market perfectly or stretching or forcing a decision. It's about getting the best home for the amount you can reasonably afford and locking in your housing costs and letting time do the work. So if you want help running your numbers, whether that's rent, buying options, monthly cost, or long-term impact, reach out anytime. I'm just a text, phone call, or a friendly Zoom chat away. And before you go, check out this video where I break down where first-time buyers can still afford to buy near Sarasota, because location changes this math more than anything. For living and buying in Sarasota, I'm Rob Rovnak. I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.